Welcome back to This Is a Commander channel, where this is a Commander channel, and today I'm going to talk about Commander Tough Rules and Cool Interactions, episode 122. Today's episode is going to take a look at some of the newly spoiled cards from the upcoming Outlaws of Thunder Junction set, and I saw a lot of questions being asked about some of the cards that I'll be talking about with a new mechanic. But this new mechanic is really just a bit of a twist on Kicker, and yes, I know that most abilities are just variations of Kicker, but that doesn't mean that new players won't have questions about this, and experienced players also will maybe have questions about how this really works. So, let's jump right into these new cards, and specifically this new mechanic. And I'll answer some of the most common questions that I saw come up. Here are 3 of the recently spoiled cards with the keyword Spree, and these Spree cards are modal spells that let you pick one or more of the modes for the spell. You have to at least pick one though. So it's basically like multi-kicker or stride, but you have a choice of which modes you want to kick it with, and each mode has its own individual cost. So now on to the questions that I saw asked the most in these posts. The most common question was dealing with situations in which you cast these spells without paying their mana costs. So let's say you play a Yannette Cryptic Sovereign deck, which has the ability that says, whenever Yannette attacks, reveal the top card of your library. You may cast it without paying its mana cost if its mana value is odd. If you don't cast it, draw a card. The question then becomes, can you reveal the Final Showdown off Yannette's ability? It'll see that it's a 1-mana card, which is odd, and then cast it for free, and then can you pick any or all of the modes and still not have to pay for any of those added costs? The answer is sadly no. No matter what the additional modes are picked, even if they make it an odd or even, it doesn't matter. Abilities like Yannette's provides us with a method of performing an alternative cost, and that you cast the spell without paying its mana cost is the alternate to paying it via the mana cost. And when you're casting a spell via an alternate cost, you can do things that require additional costs, but those additional costs must still be paid the old-fashioned way of whatever their cost is, sacrificing creatures, discarding cards, paying life, or paying mana. This is covered in the comprehensive rules in section 118.9d, which says that if an alternative cost is being paid to cast a spell, any additional costs, cost increases, and cost reductions that affect that spell are applied to that alternative cost. Another really common question I saw asked was how the mana value of the spell is affected via the Spree choices. If you cast Final Showdown and you choose all 3 of the modes, meaning it will cost you a total of white, 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 and then 5 generic mana, does its mana value then become 8? If an opponent were to counter it with their mana drain, would they get 8 mana on their next turn? No, they will not. Spree will not adjust the actual mana value of the spell while it's on the stack. They could still use a minor misstep to counter it, as its mana value is still just 1. We can see this covered in comprehensive rules in section 118.8d that says, additional costs don't change a spell's mana cost, only what its controller has to pay to cast it. Spells and abilities that ask for that spell's mana cost still see the original value. The last really common question that I saw people asking about was dealing with copying these spells. If you cast Final Showdown and you choose all 3 modes again, but this time your opponent casts Narset's Reversal on it, does the copy that they make also have all 3 modes? And in this case, yes, the modes that we pick for a spell while it's on the stack do get copied. The CR for this has a whole lot of extra text, but here's the relative parts of it in CR 707.10. which says, a copy of a spell or ability copies both the characteristics of the spell or ability and all decisions made for it, including modes, targets, the value of X, and additional or alternative costs. Choices that are normally made on resolution are not copied, so if they did Narset's Reversal your 3-mode picked final showdown, and they only want to have 2 of those 3 modes be picked, they cannot just change that. Any targets that were picked, they can choose new targets for that, but all the modes that you picked for your original are still part of the copy that they made. Well, those are the 3 main questions that I saw people asking. Please hit me with any questions that you guys all have, and I'll do my best to answer them in a reply if they're really complicated, if it's a really, really tough question with a lot of deeper CR citation and stuff. And then I'll definitely be sure to get a long video made about that if it's something that would take more than like a few paragraphs to answer. I personally think that these are really cool cards. The Final Showdown especially, being an instant, is crazy powerful, and then it also gets around most protection effects that people use by removing the abilities from creatures. It's not as good as Farewell, but I think it's going to be up there with being some of the best board wipes. Again, instant speed and getting around some of the most common protection spells like Heroic Intervention and such. That's pretty gosh dang good. I'm looking forward to seeing some of the other cards that are going to be using Spree. So anyhow, that's all I've got for today's episode. As always, I hope that all of you have found the video to be entertaining at least, and I hope that a few of you have even learned something about the crazy rules in this great game of Magic. Have a good one. Ta-ta. You know what's exciting, though? I'm not sick. This is the first weekend in like 3... Well, not a weekend. It's now Monday when I'm making this video, but it's like, this is the first time in like 3, maybe almost 4 weeks that I haven't been sick after the weekend. So very excited to just be able to talk and have my own voice and not be coughing all the time. So, okay, yeah. I hope you guys are enjoying spoiler season. These are some cool cards. There's so many cow puns on these cards. I love it. All right, yeah, have a good one. Ta-ta.